Hi, fellow leaders, and welcome back to It's a Time to Lead. Within this week, we are focusing on creating a thinking environment, a term coined by Nancy Klein. Yesterday, we focused on how can we give attention to our thinkers by listening with respect and true fascination. We also looked into how can we remove assumptions that limit ideas by really asking incisive questions. Today, the focus will be on how to create equality as well as true appreciation of our thinkers. Today's session, I will look into how do we engage our thinkers? What is equality of ideas and how can I encourage it? How can I appreciate others' thinking? And how can I utilize appreciative inquiry in our daily meetings? Now, one of the models proposed by David Rock is called the SCARF model. And according to him, certain behavior, actions, and words can either create a threat response in your brain, which is away as well as disengagement, or it can create a reward response, which is towards engagement. Now, the very first point that he has is called status. Now, status is different for each and every person. It can be as small as knowing a person on their names or even knowing their accomplishments or what they value. So treat everyone as your equal. Then create levels of certainty by ensuring that you keep them well informed in these uncertain times. How do you create a level of autonomy? By even just giving them a choice in the matter or helping them to discover their own options. Build relatedness by showing a sense of empathy by telling your own authentic story or sharing your current experiences. And then, of course, the very fragile fairness. Increase it by increasing your level of transparency, your level of communication, as well as establishing clear expectations from the onset. Now, staying on the one called status, one thing that David Rock states is that many everyday conversations dissolve into arguments driven by status threat, a desire not to be perceived as less than another. Another thing called by Nancy Klein is even in the hierarchy, people can be equal in thinking. Knowing you will have your turn improves the quality of your listening. So how can you ensure that everyone gets a turn within your meetings to have their voices be heard? And how can you ensure that you treat everyone equally and fairly? Well, Nelson Mandela was a very good example of this when he modeled this behavior by going into the union buildings and truly knowing each and every cleaner by their names. Do you know your employees? Do you know what they value? And do you give them a turn to voice their own ideas or their own opinions? Then, of course, a culture of appreciation and recognition. Now, Nancy Klein recommends a 5-to-1 ratio of appreciation to criticism. Have you known that criticism, once again, creates that threat response? And rather by creating ideas and innovation and productivity, we accidentally, once again, diminish it. But this appreciation needs to be genuine praise. It needs to be very succinct and concrete. And you need to remember to say thank you when you receive it. Don't wait to give it. Give it already today. And make sure that it's a genuine sense of appreciation that you're creating as part of a daily habit within your own cultures. Then, of course, appreciative inquiry. Now, appreciative inquiry is one of the strength-based models we use, especially in organizational development, where we help organizations to thrive and to truly create that sense of looking into what do we value or what gives life to something. Now, I can explain the whole process of appreciative inquiry by using a simple example of luggage losses. Think about yourself as a customer. If you went onto a flight and you lost your luggage, you might be very upset. The level of upsetness might be so big that the management of that particular flight center might need to look into this problem of how do we create a sense that luggage doesn't get lost anymore. However, if we only focus on the problem of luggage losses, we would not necessarily increase customer satisfaction or even efficiency levels. That is where appreciative inquiry comes in handy. The very first thing is that you need to look at is what is your destiny? How do I empower others to learn and improvise? Now, first of all, look at your topic. Rather than focusing on luggage loss, you might focus on how do you increase levels of satisfaction within your customers. When you go into the stage of discovery, you might really need to look into what gives life into your own practices and what is the best of appreciating what you already have. This example can be very easy by looking into if it is 2023 and you walk back into your environment. What would a culture of true customer satisfaction look like? What would an increased level of efficiency look like? Now you start to dream. You envision this future and the true results and the impact of this. And last but not least, you design by looking at what should the ideal be and co-constructing this future together and truly coming up with creative action steps. I would encourage you by reading this article on appreciative inquiry by going into positivepsychology.com and looking into the history where appreciative inquiry came from. Now go out, create thinkers through really treating them equally and appreciating them on a daily basis.